Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willis, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning, Texas. Good morning, United States of America. And of course, good morning to the world. How's everybody doing? I trust your day is going great. And you know what? I know your day will go great if you allow it to do so. If you make sure that you take command and make sure your day is great. Anyway, good morning, control room. El Señor Jacques Van Bever and Howard Reynolds. How are my two favorite geniuses doing this morning?
Now how did Jack get top billing over me?
Well, let me tell you why. What happened there? The problem is I was about to call you Harold, and as I was about to commute from Harold to Howard, I couldn't let the audience hear that 50 millisecond gap or something like that. So, But you know what? I also love Jack, man.
That's, Egberto, that's okay. I've been called a lot worse than that. And sometimes I deserve it. But just sometimes.
I don't know why would they call somebody like you anything bad. I mean, you keep the airwaves of Houston with choices, the right kind of choices, brother.
Well, I don't know. I mean, like I said, sometimes I've deserved it. So let's get out of here and go to the wisdom of Jack this morning. He's got some wisdom written down for us.
Good morning, Egberto.
Good morning, Jack. How are you doing this morning, my dear brother?
I'm good. I call this one Speaking with Forked Tongue.
Oh.
There has been a corporate takeover emanating from a corporate alliance between big business, the conservative faction of the Republican Party. This constitutes the fascism in politics and political processes. The Fed is co-opted by Friedman economic system that favors the rich and steals value from the workers. A Supreme Court co-opted by all that free speech, corporate personhood money. Man, they're really starting to tighten the thumb screws on the people. My read is they're feeling it. Why the vicious policies at the border for cheap labor? Why the strong-arm tactics on education? The corporation doesn't want smart people who think independently. They want automatons like AI will bring. Why no compassion for the people from the right-wing political machine? Because they speak with corporate tongue.
Those rats!
Those rats.
But you know what? I just got it. The split tongue, the forked tongue is now the corporate tongue. I like your analogy, sir. I like your analogy. And you know what? It was in full display yesterday at the judiciary hearing. For anybody who gets a chance to see what the judiciary hearing was like, go to C-SPAN and check it out. But anyhow, thank you guys. Today we are honored. Once again, it's Thursday. Neil Aquino from the Houston, what is it again? Come on, Neil.
Houston Democracy Project. We want to inspire, strengthen, and organize pro-democracy coalitions in Houston and Harris County. NeilAquino.com, or you can Google Houston Democracy Project. You'll find it.
It's such an important thing that we Neil is one of the Houston is a town, a city, a major city with great activists. And, I've been honored to know Neil for quite a few years and watch Neil not just talk about activism, but be a part of the activist community in Houston, something that we need. All the people that call in, it's something that I constantly tell us we have to be there. We have to activate no matter what part we play, whether it's 1 hour a week, 1 day a week, or like Neil, myself, and others, 7 days a week. It doesn't really matter. Whatever you can give is what our democracy requires. Anyway, Neil, thank you so kindly for being here on Politics Done Right. Yesterday, we had another great activist, Daniel Cohen, and there are so many more in Houston that over time we're going to make sure that that we get the coverage that many deserve, but that our supposedly mainstream media forgets to cover, and it's one of the reasons people are kept as confused as they are. Yesterday, as I watched I was doing three things at the same time, three screens on at the same time. And I was watching the judiciary hearing. And like you and I were speaking offline before, Neil, I find it astounding that grown people, in the past, you could say grown men, but now even the Republican women and one neoliberal Democrat in cinema, so women have joined the fold as well. I find it astounding how they can lie to people who trust them as they do.
Right.
It's scary, and you listen to some of the callers that we get, generally speaking, callers on the conservative side, and this is not to say that progressives can't be misled as well, right? But to watch how convincing they are. And I learned something from you today from the book that you're reading on Russia, that apparently the same playbook. Well, tell me a little bit about it. You do the talking here.
Oh, I've been reading a book called "The Future Is History: How Totalitarianism Claimed Russia," and it was the National Book Award winner a few years ago. So it's an account of basically about 1990 to 2015 of Russia, the end of the Soviet Union of Russia. And one of the things in the book around 2008, 2009, whatever the years were, they started calling everyone pedophiles. It's just like here. They started saying that everyone whom was on the opposite side of whatever issue was corrupting the children, didn't care about the children. You were part of the pro-pedophile. And of course, once you call someone one of the worst crimes that there is, you're entitled to do anything to them. Right. So you see this playbook in other places headed already here, and then what it leads to, of course, is the book banning. And there was just a story recently about 15 books in Katy ISD banned, and $93,000 of books taxpayers paid for boxed up in Katy. So these are the local implications of these right-wing campaigns.
It is amazing. Well, folks, today, let me go talk about what the program is titled today and what we're going to talk about. Folks, the title of the program today is Analysis of Harris County DA Kim Ogg and Others and Embarrassing Garland Judiciary Hearing. Now, these two topics take on a whole bunch. I hope to hear from our great audience as well. Please remember the telephone number is 713-526-5738. You can reach us, remember, on the dials at KPFT 90.1 FM. Just turn that dial to 90.1 FM and you reach us. You can also use the TuneIn app on your Android or Apple phone. TuneIn can be gotten at the Apple Store or the Android Store. The Play Store, I think it's actually called under Google. You can also go to kpft.org, and go ahead and listen from the website. But, if you're at the website, remember, you can also click that donate button. If you're at the website and say, I have some extra ducats and I love the information, the truth that's coming out of KPFT 90.1 FM, go to kpft.org to listen and donate if you want to. You can watch us live. You get a chance to see Neil and I side by side at Facebook.com/KPFT Houston, Facebook.com/KPFT Houston, or you can watch us on YouTube by simply going to politicsdoneright.tv, politicsdoneright.tv. So, folks, we are streaming all over the place, all over the world. By the way, if we don't get to some of the subjects that we have in the newsletter, you can just go directly to the newsletter at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Again, that is politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. I have all the links to the videos that if I don't show it today during the show, you can actually go and see what we're talking about. There are 3 great videos out there that I think you'll want to see. Again, call us don't wait till the end of the show. Call us at 713-526-5738. 713-526-5738. Para nosotros los latinos, 713-526-5738. De nuevo, 713-526-5738. It seems like we already have a call, so let's go ahead. Our audience take preeminence. Come on in, Ray.
Buenos
Good morning.
días, Egberto.
Buenos días, mi hermano Ray. How are you doing, my dear brother?
All right. And I also want to say a special good morning to my brother Neil Aquino.
Aquino. I usually get it wrong. I get it wrong. So Aquino, forgive me, Aquino. You know, I'm soy Latino, so in Spanish it's Aquino, brother. But you know, it's Aquino.
No, that's okay. They're not as long as they're saying my name some way.
Okay,
it's all good to me. Yep.
All right, come on in, Ray.
Brother Neil. Yeah. So actually, I want to give space. Thank you for having Brother Daniel on. I missed being out there with y'all. Actually, I had the pleasure of sharing space with you and Daniel at the same time, and that those were fond memories of our activism as we were, you know, being a thorn in the side of you know, the likes of Ted Cruz and people of his ilk, you know, and you know, just the fact that, you know, we're still here doing this work, you know, it's necessary work, but I appreciate seeing people like Neil, you know, that, you know, go out and do those same actions. And, you know, it's the consistency because, you know, they don't want to see us, but, you know, they're going to see us eventually. And I just want to give Neil that. And then secondly,
it's very kind. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. You will see me again, Neil. I do the work that I can do in Texas Organizing Project. That's my favorite organization. So
that's great.
Heavily involved there, and sure we'll be sharing spaces soon. But on this Kim Ogg thing, speaking of the work that I did, I recall, you know, hearing about some of the practices she did, and as I recall, she had a contender in 2020, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, she did.
Was actually a Bernie Sanders endorsed candidate, but yet somehow she was able to garner enough support through the establishment in Harris County to gain re-election. And it's like, you know, there's kind of a place where progressives kind of are on the fence as to, do you support, you know, well, I know from a strategic standpoint, some of the organizations I know, it's like basically, do you support the opposition to Kim Ogg and basically, you know, get her, you know, to be on, to basically then get on her it list, if you know what I mean? Or do you, you know, step back, you know, see if, you know, there's a formidable candidate, you know, that might be, you know, worse than her on the Republican side, and then jump in. You know, it's kind of
I think in a lot of ways, Ray, you nailed it, because what happens is the DA is one of the most powerful positions in the county, and if you go against the current running DA, who is well established, and the current running DA wins, they can find ways to come after you. And in fact, if you read the article in the Chronicle that I think I posted it to my Twitter feed, and you see that is the fear of a lot of folks opposing. If you go and you don't get the tiger come and gets you, right? And that's a concern of many. Well, Sean Tier decided to run against her this time, and he actually worked for her, so he know where a whole lot of the skeletons, if you will, are buried. And he's going to be a formidable opponent. He's a very well-financed opponent this time around. A lot of people are concerned that one of the things, well, I'll leave this to Neil to tell what's many of the concerns of that people have with Kim Ogg. Neil?
Well, I mean, a concern you can certainly have, that the story in the Chronicle highlights a pattern of politically motivated charges, all at Democrats. Now, obviously, if a Democrat commits a crime, they should be charged, but a pattern of seemingly retribution against Democratic officials. And imagine Kim Ogg as DA, lawless Ken Paxton as a state attorney general, and a Trump Justice Department. We'd be in a lousy place. And I also wanted the progressive challenger from 2020 was mentioned. That was Audia Jones, and we talked about her husband here a week or two ago, Judge Deshaun Jones, who the Sheriff's Deputies Union is calling for his removal. He won election. So, Audia Jones lost the election. It's the way it rolls. But even when these progressive champions win the election, they come at him relentlessly still. And that's part of the pattern with Ogg, where she hasn't liked some of Rodney Ellis's and bail reform and some of the progressive policies. So it's all part of a pattern of, even after we win the election, fair and square, they don't stop coming. And it certainly shouldn't be from our side of the aisle.
Well, it is interesting that what you find is, well, Ray, do you want to answer that first before I make my commentary?
Yeah, well, I mean, basically, it's kind of like the situation with the president of the United States. It's like, as much as you would want a progressive challenger, it might be a strategically bad move in the long run to do so. And in this particular instance, because you have the wrath of the DA's office possibly coming at you. But, it takes a lot of grit and bravery, I feel, to challenge that position. So,
I tell you something, Ray, that I've been, I take a lot of the time, that position that you take for a long time. I've been telling folks sometimes you have, welcome aboard, Alistair Waters. Sometimes I would say, you have to vote for the better of two evils, and understand. Let me make a categorical statement here, because I am the host of the show, so I have to show some sort of a balance here. But let me just say this: I am in support of whatever our listeners need, and that's a statement of fact. And if it is that somebody of some other party was actually what's best for what many of us not discern as best, but can qualifiably say is best, that is how we would speak. That's a tonality we would take. I don't like triangulation. And it seems to me one of the things a DA can do is show Republicans, I am willing to go after Democrats. Let's give an example. Kim Ogg went against Rodney Ellis. She went against our Hidalgo. She went against several others. And here's the other thing. There was not a charge on any one of them. Remember, you go after all these officials purporting or claiming that they've done something, and of all those attacks, of all those not indictments, but putting them under, in some indictments, zero.
As the wise guys say, bupkis.
Okay, right. So what I'm saying is, when you have that kind of a record, when you go after Democrats, it only shows one thing. You're likely trying to do exactly what we speak about, known as strangulation. Folks, give us a call at 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. Anything else you want to tell us, Neil, before Neil goes into what he wants to talk? I meant Ray, before Neil comes back.
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah. Neil, just keep on fighting a good fight, my brother. Make sure you stay hydrated out there. It's a long summer in Texas, and we got to keep our elected officials accountable. So that's what we do.
Thank you, my brother. You have a great day. Anyway, Neil, so what you wanted to talk about today is an important feature. There are, and when I talk about triangulation, that's exactly what I see happening. I think you're talking about some there are Democratic races where, first of all, every party has a particular rule that they sign. That is that your support is supposed to be for those that are running in your party line, whether you're Republican or Democrat. That is the thing that you pretty much sign up for when you're officials in these parties. I think you're telling me something interesting is happening with some of the leaders within the Democratic Party.
Right. So a few points there. And with your point to triangulation, Ogg was elected as a progressive. That's the thing. She told the public one thing and then has acted as another. But she was able to win as a progressive and hasn't followed through on that. So it's doubly disappointing. And we've been talking about some, in addition to Ogg, some Houston City Council members and candidates who have been showing up for Dave Martin for city controller. So Dave Martin is a Republican running for city controller. And the reason we talk about these things is not necessarily the bipartisan. The bipartisanship itself isn't the sin. In a healthy system, maybe we would have this bipartisanship. But what we have is, and Mayor Turner, Councilman David Robinson, Councilwoman Sally Alcorn, who's running for re-election, have appeared at a fundraiser for current Councilman Dave Martin, who's running for controller. And the point that I'm making is, before you show up for that Republican, did you ask that Republican to step away from the party's viewpoints of election denial, not accepting Harris County election results, and support for a apparent Trump second term, connecting the local with the national? So I don't know what Dave Martin's views are personally. I've heard, privately he criticizes Trump, but who cares? He needs to publicly distance himself and pressure the Republican Party to step away from these things, and the Democrats that we support. So you referenced oaths that people take, and I think you may be referring to our precinct chairs. Harris County Democratic precinct chairs are supposed to be aligned to the party, and there was a quarterly precinct chair meeting of the Harris County Democratic Party a couple weeks ago, and Sally Alcorn spoke and thanked all the precinct chairs. I think she was in a runoff against a Republican in 2019, and said thank you. Well, that's an odd way of saying thank you, then appearing at a Republican Party fundraiser, and to get the, it isn't just religious. We've been criticizing Democrats here consistently on this show. We've criticized Kim Ogg in today's broadcast. So we're not adherents of one party religiously or without question. But the question is, can you at least show up for democracy? It's a pretty low bar. And we have elected officials who we volunteer for in these kind of exploitive labor models where we volunteer and consultants and the money flows. And then they're not here for us, even at the lowest levels.
That is so true. Now, it is important to note this. When you stated that we go, as I said in the beginning of the program, we make sure to tell people as things are. If the show is a decidedly progressive show, but again, it's a show that wants to do right by every single American, irrespective of their ideology. It turns out that currently that which does best for the average American citizen are progressive values. When you ask people what are the things that they want, it turns out that whether they're Republican, Democrat, or otherwise, guess what? They want the things that progressives say they want to offer. So what it is our job to do is not to allow politicians to come on air or elsewhere and tell you, I support these values. This is what I'm going to do for you. And then when they're in office, they don't do what they claim they're going to do. And I think, in effect, you're alluding to Harris County is a blue city because people are voting for the things that they believe in, the things that make the city better. We can't have politicians who cater to that but do otherwise. And I think that is what we're driving at. I know Martin personally as well. He was my council person. He's a council person for both Kingwood and Clear Lake, right? Yeah. Connected by that small canal. How can Kingwood and Clear Lake be represented by the same person, right? And I tell you, I can't go into off the records discussions that we've had, of course, but I can tell you Martin is a nice guy. And not only that, Martin cares about people. Will I ever vote for Martin? Personally, no. Why? Because you said it perfectly. If you are of a party and that is doing ill to the American people, to your constituents, and you don't come out verbally, you don't come out in front of the world and say, I am sorry, I am a Republican, but my party has gone bat, crazy. And I'm not asking anybody to change their party. What I'm saying is, irrespective of the party that you represent, make sure to do no harm to your constituency. And to put it bluntly, you better be doing good what your constituency is asking for. Folks, 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. Please do not wait until the end of the program to call. I ask you, I implore you, because when you come on and whatever it is that you have to say, I want to give you the time for you to say it. 713-526.
We want to hear it.
Hey, I want to hear it. Absolutely. 713-526-5738. Yesterday, I'm going to play a very short piece, very short, about a minute long, of something that happened at the Judiciary Committee yesterday that I would hope all politicians would do whenever they get the opportunity to point out when somebody has done something wrong. I hope they would. So what I want to do, Neil, is I want to go ahead and play this, and then we'll take it on the other side. At the Merrick Garland judiciary hearing, Democratic Representative Eric Swalwell did the right thing. He embarrassed Jim Jordan. But again, Jim Jordan cannot be embarrassed. He thanked Merrick Garland for showing up for a sham hearing. And he said, you are doing something that even our chair of the Judiciary Committee, Jim Jordan, wouldn't do. Check this out.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney General. And thank you for coming and doing something that the chairman is unwilling to do. Testify to Congress. Yield back.
Gentleman yields back. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Wisconsin.
And as you can see, Jim Jordan didn't even reference it because he knew what the reality was. First of all, the hearing is a sham. Secondly, he's asking those to participate in a judiciary hearing that he was unwilling to do because, of course, we all know these are Trump sycophants and thugs who attempted to overthrow the United States government on the January 6th coup. January 6th coup attempt. So, I mean, and I tell you what, Swalwell went even deeper yesterday. And, when I saw how he used the opportunity to remind Jim Jordan and others of the hypocrisy as they try to overturn this country's government, that is what you have to do. Kim Ogg and others, as opposed to appeasing to thugs, it's amazing. Kim Ogg would like to give a hard time to, let's say, Elena Hidalgo for doing her job, for being good at the job, for creating progressive policies that help the citizens of Harris County. And for that, she wants to attack. Why don't you attack those who need to be attacked? Come on in, Johnny.
Is Kim Ogg a Democrat or a Republican?
Kim Ogg is a Democrat.
In name only, probably. Which brings me to my reason I called you. You mentioned Ogg earlier, and this reminds me of something I brought up to Tom Hartman earlier this week, I believe it was. I think it's time long past that we either expand the duties and the budget of, let's say, the Congressional Budget Office, or create a parallel agency whose sole mission is to track in real time the financial health and well-being of all elected officials, whether you're a state governor, a U.S. senator, a U.S. representative, or the United States president. So in other words, this agency would have authority to track the bank records, have access to the bank accounts of all these officials to see in real time what these people are doing financially, transactionally. They will have on staff forensic accountants, amongst others, to make sure and to remind these officials that they are being watched financially, so that they are discouraged from doing anything other than taking the government paycheck that we have authorized for them. So the idea of graft and corruption, financial payments, trinkets, trips, those are all bygone. And I think if we introduce that, if we manage somehow by a miracle to get that in place, that will be a first step to remind people like Kim Ogg, be a Democrat that you signed on to be, or there's the door, bye-bye.
Well, let me just say one. Let me add a little commentary to that, because when it comes, I don't want personally, right? I don't want I don't necessarily want to go into every transaction a politician makes. What I'd like to do is I'd like to add a corollary to what you said, and that is we need a body, a body that is a private. Not, I don't mean private sector body. I mean a body that can keep one's privacy, because I think even the politician is entitled to privacy, etc. I do believe they're entitled to privacy unless they break the law, right? So I think we need to have an organization, like you said, that is very, very close knit on every politician's privacy, and that can do exactly what you want to do, so that if they get out of hand, that is made public, and they also must pay a price for doing it. In other words, a politician who votes for a let's say policies that affect drug makers, pharmaceuticals, and if it turns out that he is invested in XYZ or whatever, the public ought to know about that. Or not only the public ought to know, but things like that should be prohibited. If you have the ability to vote on policies that affect these corporations, you shouldn't be part owner of these corporations, because you're at that point you're self-serving, right? So I think we could write laws that are effective, that actually do exactly what you want to do without harming somebody's privacy. Because there's one other caveat there. I want good people running for office. So good people are not going to run for office if they're just exposed. I know I would, right? So go ahead, Johnny.
Can I back a little bit? Can I push back a little bit?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Privacy is not the issue. I never said that we would compromise people's privacy. If you decide to go into the public sphere and serve as an elected official, you have a certain amount of understanding, you and your family, that you're going to be in the public light. So privacy is already being compromised. What I'm proposing is we remind them that they are in the public sphere and that they will be prosecuted at minimum if they take any kind of any kind of bribe money or favors, because that's illegal. It's supposed to be illegal.
Johnny, we're not in disagreement. The only thing that I want to make sure is that, if somebody goes and buy, this is going to be funny, but let's say we have some guy that likes to buy, this is going to sound terrible, but let's say a guy goes out there and buy an edible underwear or something like that, okay? I think the guy's privacy should be protected on something like that, right? That may be one of his little picadillos. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about.
Okay, again, I don't care whether he buys edible underwear or a Cadillac or an electric vehicle. That's not the issue. The forensic accountants, they're educated, they're sworn officers. Their mission, it's part of the agency they're employed by as civil servants, is to make sure that all elected officials are not being corrupted financially. End of story. And if they detect that, they send an advisory to that person, a written statement advising what they've done, and they have 10 days or whatever to address that. And beyond that, if they don't fix their personal affairs, then the next step, whatever that is.
All right, Mayor Johnny, I think we're in agreement, and I think Neil agrees with you. Well, I better not speak for Neil. Neil.
Well, I just say that, it's kind of a whack-a-mole, because there are these financial disclosure requirements. But, for example, our Texas state representatives and senators are not paid a salary, right? They're paid a per diem and some expenses. And frequently they get rich in office legally.
Right.
So they do all the accounting they're supposed to do, but they become consultants, or they open a business. And people go to that business because they're a state senator, because they're a state representative. And I'm not referencing anyone specifically. It's a widespread practice. So what's frustrating sometimes is folks get rich in office, fully compliant with the disclosure rules, and you've seen this. I actually think elected officials should get a raise. Sometimes, although it's a whack-a-mole, because they get around whatever. With the Houston Independent School District, or with things where people aren't paid. You know, there's been problems. There's been problems. That's not a case for the takeover of the district. Let me be clear. But I wish that they were paid.
I agree. Now, anyway, Johnny, I got to go to Gonzalo and then Bard. So give me a one sentence closer, brother. The mayor of Politics on the Right.
A final pushback. If you guys noted, I mentioned U.S. Senator, U.S. Congressman, state governor, and the president. I didn't talk about at the state level legislators because now
Johnny, I think Johnny, we are in agreement with you. Stop it. We're in agreement with you, brother. Come on.
No, I'm just pointing out that I'm talking about basically the national and state governors. That's it. Because
got it, brother.
Once you get more detail in that, it's a logistical nightmare.
Yes.
A good start, I think.
Thank you, my brother. Listen, let me tell you, everybody here is in sync with that. Gonzalo, entra por favor, mi amigo cubano.
Okay. Good morning, Egberto.
Good morning, my brother. ¿Cómo estás?
Okay. Muy bien. I have to disagree slightly with the mayor of Politics Gone Right, our friend Johnny.
Okay.
The first question that came to my mind, and I said, well, Johnny should have born in Cuba, and I should have born in this country. What he's trying to propose is precisely what Cuban government does. So if they go after you, they check your account, they freeze your assets if you have some, and that's not the country we want.
No, okay. Let me defend Johnny a bit here, Gonzalo. And if you notice, when the one thing that I did with Johnny is I said, "Hey, privacy for whichever organizations." You notice Johnny said, and if you listen to what he said we need a separate organization that actually monitor these things, and this is just to make sure that the private sector is not corrupting the public sector, which then affects all people. I know you have siendo cubano, being a Cuban, you have sensibilities to whenever the state does something. I get it. Trust me, I get it. And that's the reason I wanted to kind of clarify on what Johnny was talking about, because I understand exactly what you're saying, sir.
Okay. Second thing, I think Johnny and we are all naive if we pretend that would be enforced, because politicians are smart. I mean, they're not dumb. If they want money and they don't want to leave a trace, there are different ways.
And I think wait a minute, Gonzalo, you're right, but I think, Gonzalo, let me just say one thing, however.
Trips, cruise ship, vacation, and we know that some of them has been publicly released. We all listen and hear the news about even the Supreme Court guy.
Clarence Thomas. Analito.
Yes. And I mean, that's something that is unnecessary. I mean, they have their own ways to get the money no matter what.
Now, let me just say, and that's the reason. And by the way, first of all, I get it. They can find ways to get around it. And that is what the kind of organization that Johnny is talking about would be. It would be that organizations that trying to find when they're doing that. So it would be a help organization, just like we have private organizations like Open Watch and others that attempt to, that found out what Clarence Thomas did. He just wants something a bit more official than that. But I get it, Gonzalo. Tengo más llamadas, so give me a one sentence closer.
Yeah, okay. I think IRS does a good job trying to trace all those illicit monies. So,
Gracias, hermano.
Thank you very much, and have a wonderful day.
You too, my friend. All right, let's go ahead and talk to Bard. Come on in, Bard. Bard, you're on. Take yourself off mute if you're on mute. All right. Bard, let's go to Jim.
Hello.
Jim, you're on.
Yeah, I guess there's some things I'm not really too sure about how people feel about Kim Ogg.
Mm-hmm.
When she first ran for office, she was one of the people that was put up there that was actually backed by George Soros. Do you remember who that was?
No, but I don't know why people like to use George Soros.
I don't know who it was either.
Yeah.
I don't know who it was either. You see what I'm saying?
Oh no, but let me just first say this about I think the amount of power that you guys give to, or not when I say you guys, but people who talk about George Soros give to George Soros, I find it astounding.
Wait a minute. No, I don't talk about George Soros because George Soros supposedly has given money to Kim Ogg. Am I not right?
I don't know. Neil,
no.
do you know?
I heard that.
The irony of I understand what you're saying about people and Soros but the irony is for all of the false stories about George Soros, like people have told me I'm funded by George Soros and I'm ready to receive the money. Let me tell you. The irony is of all the people who got the George Soros money, it was Kim Ogg. So here is Cron.com for 2016. Billionaire George Soros has again stepped into the Harris County DA's race with a $500,000 advertising buy on behalf of Kim Ogg. So I think maybe that's what the caller's getting to. The irony of it all of the Soros horse hockey, she got the money.
No, let me explain. Was that not the first year she ran? The guy that
2016,
she ran first year, who was it?
I don't remember who ran against her in 2016, but what Neil just said is, in fact, he did fund her.
He eventually did fund her, but originally he funded a guy that nobody ever heard of. The general population of Houston never heard of this person. And get this, he was against gay people. So
really?
I'm talking about the guy that ran that got the George Soros money was against gay people. Why would you want somebody in a city this big for that position that was against gay people? I don't understand.
I don't want that.
What was put up there?
Yeah,
right.
I didn't know that. But like I said, again, that is, I don't talk about things that I don't know. So I'll just take your word for that. But again,
what I'm saying is I don't have all the details on that, but I do remember that race. But they came up against a person that was a conservative. Remember?
I'm sorry, I really don't.
Very quickly as I
go ahead, Lee. Neil, go ahead.
Okay, just very quickly to try to clear it up. There was a donation, it seems, to an opponent who I've heard of Ogg in the primary in 2016. I don't know what all of his stances were. It could be he was running to the left and there is a name I won't mention it because I don't know if he was. I don't know him to be anti-gay. But in any case, getting to where Ogg and the irony of it is also, as I read this Cron.com story, the spokesperson for Ogg in 2016 was Wayne Dolcefino, who I think was known to be the whole thing is screwy. The whole thing is just screwy. And why was she hiring Wayne Dolcefino? And why doesn't he? Go ahead.
I can't pronounce
hold on a second. Jim, one person at a time, please. So let me direct traffic here. Finish what you want to say, Neil.
Well, I don't want to interrupt the caller, but it was just the whole thing is odd. She's hiring Wayne Dolcefino. She's saying she's progressive. There's Soros money. She turns out to be running to the and the issue here isn't the ideology. She can be a centrist Democrat. She can be a conservative Democrat. The issue from the Chronicle is going after political opponents, and then us maybe linking that up to Paxton and a Republican Justice Department as a pattern of going after opponents. So the issue isn't even the ideology, although she's not the ideology she says. And the irony of it is, for all the horse hockey about Soros, Unfortunately, she got the Soros money. Too bad he didn't spread it around to the rest of us.
And $500,000 in Houston is quite a bit of money. Go ahead, Jim.
Let me say this. I'm not against George Soros. I'm just saying, if you don't understand the local politics, stay out of it. Okay? That's what I'm saying. If you got all that money and you don't know what's going on locally, you don't need to put people up there that are going to come up against right-wing conservatives that can't win. You know
I see. I understand where you're coming from now. You're saying that somehow money came into Houston to support the wrong candidate because that candidate happened to have been Democrat, and these persons didn't know that there are a whole lot of different kinds of folks. I get it, Jim. I get what you're trying to say. And go ahead.
The last person that ran against Ogg, who were they? They were the lawyer for the police union. Remember that? Do you want to go back to that? Remember when we had Johnny Holmes, when you're dead, dead.
I remember Johnny Holmes very well. Okay. Absolutely. Yes.
Right.
Very well.
That's
but anyway,
what I'm trying to say.
Got you, Jim.
Don't seem to understand what the Republicans are doing. It's almost as if the Democratic Party sometimes is incompetent.
Well, actually, I don't think too many people would disagree with you there.
It's perfect. It's perfect. But we got to look at who can win, and not give money to somebody that nobody ever heard of.
I got it, Jim. All right, Jim, I got it. What you said makes sense. I understand where you're coming from. Now, it was a bit difficult to figure out what you're trying to say in the beginning, so my bad. I get you. Anyway.
I also say that the DA stuff is crazy because if you remember, we went through 3 or 4 DAs. It's all very odd. The whole office has been odd for years, and Ogg has continued that. So no surprise to be confused. I think a lot of people are baffled by it.
Okay. Anyway, folks, thank you so kindly for your call, Jim. Folks, give us a call, 713-526-5738. Remember, this is your show. You can change the direction of a show if there are particular issues that you think should be covered that we're not covering. 713-526-5738. Also, do remember that if you want me to cover particular issues, or you want to make a complaint about the show, or if you want to give a praise to the show, drop a line at kpft@politicsdoneright.com, kpft@politicsdoneright.com. I want to go ahead and I play a little piece by, the phone is ringing, so I guess I won't play a little piece right now. So, but anyhow, Neil, I at first I misunderstood where Jim was coming from. What he's pretty much saying is, if you're going to bring external money into a county or into local races, at least understand the dynamics of that race to make sure that you're putting your money where it best serves the people appropriately. So I am with him all the way. It seems like Harry is in. Come on in, Harry.
Good morning, Roberto. How are you this morning?
I am doing fine. Talk to me, Harry. What would you like to add to the discussion?
Okay. Well, what I want to say is, in the first 10 minutes of your show, when you had the activist Ray and you were talking with Neil and you were talking Texas politics, did you say, I thought I heard you say that sometimes you have to vote for the lesser of two evils. Did you actually say that?
No, I said in the past, I always thought that I needed to vote for the lesser of two evils. And I think to some extent that has not served us well. So, look,
agreement there.
But there are still times, however, in as much as I said that, I'm talking about there are certain times that things are existential, however. And that still holds for things that are existential. As an example, I am not a fan of Joe Biden. Joe Biden against any current Republican, Joe Biden will get my vote. That is a lesser of two evils vote, in that he's not the progressive that I would have liked to have. Now, that said, Joe Biden has passed a lot of progressive policies I thought he would never pass. Okay? I thought he would never have supported. So that particular vote, I thought, was a correct vote. But again, there are instances where the right vote is to vote the lesser of both evil, even though, like I said, there are times that I've done it that I think I should not have done it personally myself. Go ahead, Harry.
Okay, well, I did that in the past, and I just decided, as I learned more about politicians and stuff, that I just decided, well, I think the best thing for me to do, if I don't like either candidate, I did this in 2016. I did not like Hillary Clinton because of things she had done in the past as Senator Clinton and things she lied about. And I did not like Donald Trump either. So I just voted for the person who I felt at that time, because he wasn't given a fair shot, because I supported Bernie. And I just wrote Bernie's name in during the general. And
now look, Harry, let me interrupt for a second. In a place like Texas, that didn't hurt an election. In a place like Michigan, in a place like Pennsylvania, in a place like these other places, that makes a difference. Because here's what I tell a lot of, and this is where I went. I remember I was a Bernie person and went to Philadelphia to support him as a delegate. Now, the thing, however, is this. I understand people that say that in states like Texas, not necessarily Florida, because Florida at that time was still a swing state. But in areas that are swing, I think our responsibility as activists is to give people good advice. And I'm sure. Yeah, I am sure. For some reason we lost Neil. I don't know what happened there. Neil, come back in. I don't know why you got disconnected. You may need to try back in. But here's the thing, Harry. I think the response, if you care about people, and you know that the possibility of a Trump is there that's going to materially hurt people's lives, okay? I think responsibly, I cannot tell folks, go ahead and vote the third party, knowing that could cause a problem. I'm sorry. I think my personal humanity tells me I cannot do that. I hope you understand what I'm saying there, Harry.
Let me, if I could just really briefly,
go ahead.
Too often I believe we should have voted for or the Democratic nominees in 2016 and 2020, but we put the onus. There's so much venom directed at people who are trying to navigate a tough system, and I would just point out that many of our elected Democrats in safe districts have districts that consistently have lousy turnout, and they seem really content with that. And they could pool their resources and efforts and imagination and increase the turnout. So the person who says what the caller just says gets from certain segments of venom, but the people in power who could really impact turnout and who could do better don't. So I want to make sure we always focus some of that frustration. And you weren't focusing frustration on the caller, but focus it up.
Right, absolutely. Hey, Harry, I need to let you go to bring Martha in, but real quick.
I wanted to say this. I just believe always in voting for your conscience now. I don't believe in voting for the lesser of two evils. Because if I don't like the things that they're doing, or then I just can't do that. So I'll just vote for them. And
I got you, brother. I got you.
I'll ask you about that again. You said something about. I'll have to go back into the.
I got to go to Martha, Harry. We only have 3 minutes left, right, so thank you, my brother.
Have a good day.
All right, come on in, Martha.
Hey, first he called me Moses, then he called me Martha. I don't know.
What is your name? What's your name?
Houston.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing fine. Is this what's your name, Melissa?
Yes, it's Melissa.
I thought I recognized your voice, Melissa. Talk to me, my sister.
Yeah, so what I wanted to say is chime in on about the voting.
Yes, ma'am.
What I believe happens is that they gave us the two-party system, right? Just so they can continue, on one side. If one side gives, the other side throws away. If the other side throws away, the other side gives, right? So, we as African Americans, they say we don't vote. But we've been gave up on the two-party system. That's what that was. So two-party system don't work. We need more variety in there. Yeah.
I believe that we should have like other countries where we have a lot of different parties so that folks really have to hassle and dazzle to come to ideas. And that gives corporations and others the fit, right? Because they no longer can buy a whole block and that sort of a stuff. So I am with you there. Eric Hayes says he likes no labels. No labels is a corporate farce. So in fact, I have a story to tell about not only No Labels. I've been to conferences where No Labels was a part of, but even within organizations that I'm a part of, that it's an issue. No Labels is not really a No Labels organization. Anything else you want to say, Martha, before we close this baby down? Hear me, Martha, Melissa.
No, that was it. I just wanted to say, our no vote is a vote. The no vote is a vote.
Exactly. Actually, no vote is a vote. But look, thank you so kindly for calling in, my dear Melissa. And I want to throw this right back to the control room for a quick closer. We're a bit slow today. We're not as excited, but that's fine. Every now and then we get into those. Go ahead, Howard.
Okay, I was going to tell you that along with Harry in the 2016 election, I didn't vote for anyone. I voted against both of them by voting third party. Now, I know that that's probably throwing away my vote, and I could have made a difference somewhere, but I just couldn't stand either candidate. I thought that they were the most unstomachable, vile choices ever.
In Texas, it didn't matter. Yeah, in Texas, it didn't matter.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay, well, here's some wisdom from Jack.
Yeah, it seems they're really scraping the bottom of the barrel sometime. Kim Ogg, another wolf in sheep's clothing. There are lots of them out there.
All right, Jack, I got to go to Neil because we are a little over time. Neil, give me a quick 10 seconds. Tell people about your site.
Houston Democracy Project. You can Google it, Houston Democracy Project. It's at neilaquino.com. And let's inspire, organize, and strengthen pro-democracy coalitions in Houston. We have the power to do so.
Thank you so kind. Thank you, Howard Reynolds, Jack Van Bibber, and Neil Aquino for waking up this time of the morning to be a part of our program. My name is Egberto Willis. This is Politics and Right, and you guys know how I end this baby. I am what? Out. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.